think I'm okay without the glasses, Mom.
Okay.
Good morning, graduates, families, doctors, nurses, and members of the Memorial Sloan-Kettering community. Today we gather to celebrate the class of 2013. Sitting here in our caps and gowns, we've traveled here today from different schools and neighborhoods. Some of us are reuniting with old friends. Some of us are just meeting one another for the first time. Yet we're seated here together because we aren't just high school seniors. We're united in a very special way. At some point in our 18 years, we have each spent time in this building as pediatric cancer patients. Each of us holds dear in our hearts the memories of our cancer battles. I stand here before you not just to speak of my own experience with cancer, but to convey the message that matters most. The victorious battle with pediatric cancer is one that we celebrate together. When I think back to my battle with osteosarcoma, I think of my 7-year-old self staring in the mirror, trying to understand why my hair was falling out, learning that I was sick, that Mommy and Daddy were scared, and that my leg was going to be amputated. It didn't all click in my head right away though. Legs surely grew back just as hair did. My younger sister believed that too. We each remember the morning routines of checking in outpatient, having our Broviacs or Metaports hooked up to our chemo bags. I recall a special pride in finally learning which buttons to press when the machine started beeping. There were days spent in the playroom doing the daily crafts, challenging volunteers to 2-hour games of spit, and joining the acting class just to have a laugh. Then I recall the inpatient experiences, bingo night, the ice cream sundae truck rounds, the movies in bed. The nurses who took extra time changing our IVs just because the gauze pulled our skin. The therapists who spent hours encouraging me every day to trust my one left foot for balance. Trips down to the echo and physical therapy rooms became little adventures for me as I envisioned my road back to normalcy. But what was normal? After all, whether we were 7 years old with cancer, 7 months old with cancer, or 15 years old, would our lives ever really be the same? Returning back to our homes, our schools, and our friends presented their own challenges, partly because being a patient at Sloan isn't normal. Feeling episodes of weakness, traveling to some of our friends' own funerals, considering nurses and doctors as caregivers and friends, none of that is quite normal. Cancer brought with it a set of experiences, both humbling and trying, that few others outside these doors understand. Would we ever again share the same priorities that our friends outside of school had? Would our 8-year-old self, fresh out of treatment, understand why girls were picking on one another for petty things like hair and nails? We lost our hair at one point, our nails changed color, and somehow we dealt with it. Would our 15-year-old self finishing treatment feel out of place when our friends started talking about guy problems in the summer? We spent that summer in a hospital bed. When we overheard friends complaining about curfews, grades, and spending money, did we not think twice in the back of our heads and say, really, is this what people are worrying about? Priorities changed at Sloan, but with this change came our own profound growth and maturity. We can say we lost our innocent view of the world while we were here. We faced life-threatening circumstances within our own bodies. Yet I would never consider my cancer battle as having dampened any bit of my faith in the good in the world, in our community, in the human capability to be resilient, strong, and well-intended. When I left the doors at Sloan following my last round of chemo, I left with this profound understanding that the world was better and I was better because people like the Sloan patients, families, doctors, and nurses existed. We were taken care of here. Our families were taken care of here. Social workers, health organizations, and teachers each played their own role. What I learned is that there is so much reward, so much meaning, and so much value in giving more of ourselves. There's a cliche term that I believe we learned all too well. The little worries need to be put aside in the grand schemes. My fellow patients at Sloan embodied the notion that when your life is on the line, there's no time to be impatient. Yes, Mom, that's a pun. And no time to waste. Those patients chose to act swiftly and to chase their own dreams, both big and small. Throughout my months here, I made friends with patients who left me in awe. They simply weren't willing to put their lives on hold just because of cancer. The vacations they always wanted to take to Disney, the walks they always wanted to have in Central Park, the prom dances they always imagined in their heads. Not only did these fantasies offer us hope, they became realities, because here we learned that anything worth dreaming is worth doing. Those friends of mine weren't willing to settle. That's a valuable lesson that many adults still haven't grasped or put into action. Those months spent fighting cancer are the months when I, and many of you, learned what it really means to live. That's resilience. These values are ones worth celebrating. They shed light on another victory that we made in leaving Sloan. We won another battle. We moved on after cancer. I don't believe that any of us define ourselves by cancer, but I think of my cancer battle every day. It didn't define me, but it certainly played a role in developing my character. This might sound like a bold statement coming from a 17-year-old, but I've never been more confident than in those words. Maybe some of us lost school and neighborhood friends during our cancer battle. There were vacations, birthday parties, school days that we missed out on, and maybe those built up. Yet we made it here, June 13th, 2013. It's safe to say we all felt a little lost following our rounds of treatment. In some weird way, I remember feeling confused when my mom told me that I'd finished my last round of chemo. I would miss my friends at the hospital. I'd miss the salt and vinegar fries in the cafeteria on the third Thursday of every month. The intense questionnaire of experience that I'd give every nurse before she gave me an IV. The clowns who made me smile, and sometimes I wanted to cry. Today we celebrate that readjustment back to a new normal. It's an accomplishment to have smiled after each nurse and doctor visit. It's an accomplishment to have kept up with schoolwork while staying at Sloan, to return to school before our hair had even grown back, to remain positive as we enter Sloan's buildings for our checkups, even until today. Following treatment, I re-immersed myself into new hobbies and activities. I learned how to ski, rock climb, swim, and walk again. I went to sleepaway camp, joined Girl Scouts, and learned how to play the clarinet at Juilliard and the Manhattan School of Music. Many of you pursued longtime passions in sports, theater, academics, and community service. Despite fighting a battle for life, none of us ever stopped living. After treatment, we continued to live a bold life that knows no limits, because we learned that there is so much good in this world if we only look for it. I'd like to share one of my favorite quotes from Marie Curie. Life is not easy for any of us, but what of that? We must have perseverance and, above all, confidence in ourselves. So here's to a class of 2013 that's come a long way. I am so proud to be in this room with you today.